You know what? I'm going to change the setting here. Let's see. Toggle. Starter 1. Okay. See if that helps me because my starter is weird. There we go. I'm gonna turn the, let's see, this fucking dynamic settings off. Yeah, they don't seem like they're off. Yeah, they totally still seem like they're on. Let me do it this way with the mouse instead of a fucking controller, because for some reason the controller, yeah, see, they're on again. Off, save and back, resume. There we go, now they're off. And it definitely gives a little hit on VRAM and GPU headroom, but not enough to that it affects performance at all. And the mirror still looks pretty good. Yeah, I find the smooth motion sort of stops working if you're low to the ground and low on resources, but as soon as they come back, it starts working again. And again, this is all in the mirror, not in VR. In VR, the performance is much the same as usual, maybe a little bit better, but I don't know if that has to do with smooth motion. Probably not. It probably has to just do with the driver. But considering that the mirror is so much more improved and smooth, and I'm getting pretty much the same performance in VR, except for my headroom seems higher. My GPU and CPU headroom seems higher than usual, but that being said, yeah, I really don't have anything to complain about in this game. In Assetto Corsa, it doesn't work at all, and actually the driver kind of sucks for Assetto. But it's a DLSS thing, it's an NVIDIA thing, and Assetto Corsa uses FSR, if anything. So I turned it off for that because it wouldn't work, and it didn't work because it's not a DLSS game. But I did try it in The Last of Us Part 2 in 2D, of course, because it's a 2D game, flat screen game. And I had to turn off frame generation for the smooth motion to work. And the smooth motion got me 165 frames a second, and that's only because I locked it at 165 a second, and it was working great. Super sharp, crisp, clear image. I didn't see very many, if any, artifacts, and it actually seemed like it was working better than frame gen. But those games are secondary to this because I play this the most, probably. Right now, anyway. And Assetto Corsa, so it kind of sucks that it doesn't really work very well. The driver, I mean, doesn't really work great with Assetto, but it is a beta driver, it's a development driver, it's not a public release driver, so it's not a huge deal. Actually, let me land her real quick. I want to check my altitude, because I don't believe my altitude's correct. It might be, but looking for a place to land here. There's a parking lot. Yeah, I don't know what the mirror is showing right now, but it's super smooth in the headset. I have plenty of headroom. Alright, altitude seems to be... Let's do that. So I don't think I'm that far off from sea level right now. Yeah, turning off dynamic, the dynamic, whatever, what have you, definitely gives you a hidden VRAM and GPU. But if you could maintain it, which I am, it's no problem. You get much better TLOD. Ooh, we are kicking it. Let's slow down a little bit. Well, not slow down, but let's take it easy on the collective. Yeah, so, you know, there are people... I posted this, one of my videos, and a stream I did with the smooth motion driver, just to showcase that the mirror is largely the biggest improvement. Is the mirror is no longer super jittery, you know? And then, of course, everybody is like, oh, frame generation doesn't work in VR, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know, assholes. Nobody ever said it did. All I said was, the mirror looks better. But, you know, fucking people on the internet always have to fucking chime in their fucking 2 cents without fucking reading anything. I never said it made an improvement in VR or added any frames or was working in VR. All I said was, my CPU and GPU headroom seems much improved, and performance in VR is great, and most importantly, my mirror is nice and smooth now instead of super jittery. But of course, you know, these idiots are all like, frame generation doesn't work in VR. Okay. Did anybody say that? No, asshole. So why don't you just shut the fuck up? Anyway. Yeah, so you will get, though, if you are having issues with this driver, if you are trying it, it's a development driver, it's not out for the public, but if you want to try it and you're having issues, you might want to turn on dynamic settings. It does give you a little boost for sure, or quite a big boost sometimes, but you will definitely suffer as far as your TLOD is concerned. But it works a lot like, you know, auto FPS and shit like that. I just use it because auto FPS never really worked for me without giving me a stutter on descent and or ascent. So whether I was climbing or changing altitude would just definitely change the OD, the LODs and fuck up the frame rate and give me like a stutter. And you know, like I tried all sorts of settings, didn't really work great. It worked, but it didn't work great. Like it introduced more stutters because I didn't really have too many stutters anyway, but it introduced even more while also making my LOD crap. So I use the one in the game mostly when I'm flying like airplanes, but when I'm flying helicopters I usually turn it off because I'm flying low enough that, you know, you want to see that ground detail. I do want to try something real quick though, just to do. You know what? Never mind. Never mind. It's not gonna help me in any way. But all in all, even if you took off not frame generation, but the smooth motion altogether, as far as I can tell, it's a decent driver for Microsoft Flight Sim outside of that. Like, I'm not getting any weirdness as far as performance or image quality. Looks great. Performance is in line with, you know, my usual optimized settings. And, you know, my usual optimized driver. And there's also a bunch of people who try to, like, shove 566.36 down your throats. And hey, if it works for you, great. But keep in mind, it doesn't work as well as the later drivers for a lot of people. With, you know, 40s and 50 series cards, I'm getting much better performance with 576 drivers than 566. And now with the 590 driver, it's great. Like, I'm getting no stutters. I'm getting smooth VR. I'm hitting all my numbers, and I have actually extra headroom that I don't usually have. And my mirror's better. You know? So why not use this driver? Yeah, head motions are a lot smoother in the VR mirror than they ever were. Is it perfect? No. But does it perform just as well as any other fucking driver that I've used so far? Pretty much. I mean, I'm not getting, again, I'm getting performance that I'm used to, which is usually pretty fucking good. I don't get stutters, usually. Like, here and there. Very rarely, though. Like, you might get a hiccup or whatever. But, you know, generally speaking, it's working pretty damn well. Except in Assetto Corsa. As far as I can tell. I've only tested 3 games with this driver so far. Spent a little time in The Last of Us Part 2, then Assetto Corsa. I was still hitting 90 frames a second in VR, but my GPU and CPU usage was a lot higher than it usually is in that game. And, you know, I'm not even using smooth motion in that game because it's not a NVIDIA game. So, or it doesn't use DLSS or DLAA. It uses FSR if you want to use upscaling. But yeah, I'm usually hitting 90 frames a second, no problem, with 576 drivers. And you know, it's a little weird in Assetto, but in Microsoft Flight Sim, everything's running really well. Miss Claude. Cindy Clawford. That's Higgins's cat in what is it? What's the name of that show? The one on Apple TV with the American football coach. I swear to God, man, like, people on the internet, they read and see what they want to see, but don't actually read the fucking post, you know? And I'm sure I'm gonna get more comments on the post like, blah, 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 it doesn't do shit, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, whatever. You know what? The proof is in my videos, man. My video recordings are a lot smoother just because it's helping out the mirror. But as far as in the headset itself, I'm getting really good performance. I'm getting excellent performance, just as good as I was getting prior to this driver. So I don't know if it's just the driver, I don't know if it's Sim Update 3, but Sim Update 3 has always been running pretty fucking well, so it could be Sim Update 3. But again, the point is the mirror. And even in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, when there was an update, a world update for 2020 that enabled frame generation for the VR mirror. And a lot of people didn't realize it, and they never turned it on. And if you turned it on in 2D, it would affect your mirror. I did drop a frame right there, but I don't care. It was one frame that took like half a second. Yeah, I'm getting 30 frames a second just spinning around like this, no problems. Yeah, VR is running just as well as usual, which is pretty damn good in Sim Update 3. Actually, since Sim Update 2, VR has been excellent. God, I love this helicopter. You know, I don't even know why I post on that Facebook post anymore. It's just because, like, you know, most of the people on there are idiots. You know, and then they try to shove their experiences down your throat like you're going to get the same experience. Like, you know, your mileage may vary depending on your RAM type, your fucking GPU, your CPU. I don't know, man. So many variables in PC gaming, but, you know, if you have a similar system to me and you're using the HP reverb and you play in VR, your mirror recordings are going to be much better with this driver. And you won't suffer in your VR performance. In fact, you might get a little better VR performance, but you know, no guarantees. So like right there, I just got like a little tiny stutter, no big deal. Lost a frame, but it popped right back up. Yeah. Some weird photogrammetry right there. But I'm a fan of the photogrammetry. You know, at times it's horrible, but a lot of times it's really good. Like, see, the photogrammetry there is great. None of that stuff looks bad. You can tell it's photogrammetry, but I'd rather see real buildings in where they are in real life than a bunch of procedural buildings that don't exist and look nothing like the real life counterparts. And some people prefer that because performance. Well, alright, I get it, but at the same time, I'd rather take the hit because my system can handle it. But, you know, to each your own. Oops. Thought I had another couple of feet there, but that's fine. It's not a bad landing. Oh, little stutter there, but again, recovered super fast. I'm back to super smooth. Just a split-second stutter. Now, if you play in 2D, smooth motion will probably help you out. I don't know if it'll be better than just frame generation, or if you can use them in tandem. I don't know if you could use them in tandem, but it's like either one or the other. So, like I said, when I was playing The Last of Us Part 2, I had to turn off frame generation in the game for the smooth motion to work. But then I was getting over 165 frames a second, so it was definitely working. Because without frame generation or smooth motion, I would get around probably 100 frames a second, around there. So, and with regular frame generation, I would get about, I would get my 165 frames a second. At least. But with the smooth motion, I don't see as, like, it seems more natural, the motion, and it seems like there's no screen tearing or artifacts, as much as I can tell, on a 2D game. But again, your mileage may vary. I have no idea what's going to go on your system. All I can definitively say is that my VR mirror is 10 times better than it's ever been in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, and that's directly due to smooth motion. Fight me. You want to fight me? Fight me. Like, I have the proof. I have a bunch of videos I made without it in VR, and I'm accumulating a bunch now with it. And all you got to do is look at one video and then the next and see the differences. But, you know, people will argue with you on the internet if you say the sky is blue. So it really doesn't matter what you're talking about. People will find a way to be idiots. Just like Trump's lies. It's like, motherfucker lies. That's all he does. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a bold-faced lie. And if you can't figure that out, then you're the idiot. Because everything he says, like crowd sizes, penis size, his hand size, his height, his fucking weight, winning the 2020 election, everything he says is lies. And then, you know, and he says stupid shit like, well, you know, people say. Fuck people say. I want to hear what you say, and what you say is a fucking bold-faced lie. Anyway, it's kind of just like that. I can show you the proof. I can show you my smooth-ass videos with smooth motion enabled, and then I can show you my videos without it enabled, and you tell me which ones look better. And it's not like it's 100% perfect, you know, like I was watching a video I made earlier, and I was like, yeah, looks like low to the ground, it kind of shuts itself off and it's back to being a bit jittery, but for the most part, say 90% or higher of the video is the smooth motion is working on the mirror. And it's making my mirror a hell of a lot easier to watch, even if I'm speaking, which, you know, introduces some jitter. But, you know, moving my head around doesn't look like it's as inducing. It's smoother. It feels like, you know, it just feels natural. It looks better. And, you know, smooth motion is doing what it says. It's smooth motion. If they're fake frames, I don't care, man. It's my VR mirror. I don't give a fuck. If it's not inducing any latency in my actual gameplay, which I don't think it is, I don't feel it. Everything feels as snappy as it usually does. And if I stay under a certain amount of latency milliseconds, and I make my frame rate, then what difference does it make other than a better VR mirror? You know what I mean? If it's going to be the same exact or slightly even better performance or the same performance in VR, if my mirror is better, then it's reflecting what's happening in the headset a lot better. But it's a beta driver as well, or a development driver, and I don't, you know, I'm sure there are going to be issues that pop up. Like I said, of course, it doesn't work great. And I haven't really, you know, the driver, I just got it earlier today. I haven't really played anything outside of this and a little Assetto and The Last of Us Part 2. So, but everything works. I can still play Assetto. It's just not as good as it usually is. Smooth motion or no, but it's no, because it's not a DLSS game. But for DLSS games that support it, well, it's a driver level enable, so you don't really need the game to support it, except if it supports DLSS, then it probably will help you out a little bit. But, you know, don't quote me on that. I don't know. Like I said, the only thing I can speak on is my experience and what I see in my recordings and what I see in my headset. Yep, getting a little tiny frame dip right there, but then I'm good again. If anybody's wondering, this is driver 590.26 NVIDIA RTX driver. I'm also using DLSS 3.13 or 3.10.3. I don't know, the latest DLSS, preset K. And smooth motion is enabled, and that's why my mirror is super smooth, which basically just means better recordings, you know, and streams, because I don't see the mirror. I don't care about the mirror usually, unless I want to post something on the internet, and if I want to post something, I want it to look as good as possible and represent what I'm feeling and seeing in the headset. And the only really way to do that is to have smooth video on your mirror, because if your mirror is jittery, people are like, ew, your viewer sucks, and it might not just like represent what you're actually seeing in VR, because in VR right now it's super smooth, like no stutters, no weirdness. Everything's running great. I had maybe 2 frame drops since I took off from Petaluma. And they weren't bad, and I recovered super quick. No micro stutters at all. And I've been hitting my frame rate pretty solidly the whole time. Like, yeah, I'm using reprojection. I'm using DLSS balanced, smooth motion, and I'm running a pretty high resolution. So, yeah, DLSS, the latest one. Plus, also I'm using a driver level sharpening tool, and which absolutely helps out in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like, everything is sharp and clear. See what I mean? All right, this area right here is a possible frame dip, but it doesn't usually last long at all. It's like you get a hit and then it's gone. Something I have noticed with this helicopter though is I get some weird intermittent crackling in the audio. I don't feel like I get it at all in any other aircraft. Like I was flying the P-51 earlier, I didn't notice any crackling. I was flying the Apache, the Hunter, Quick Flight Hunter, and I didn't notice any crackling. And then I jumped into this, and every now and again, and you know, it's kind of regular, like it just happened again. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that with Taug's 500 or OH6. Yeah, ghosting is much improved. That could be the new DLSS. It's there, like you still get some, but it's so much better. Yeah, it's really smooth. I'm getting really good performance. Let's try to create some stutters. Yeah, it's still super smooth in the headset. I don't know what the mirror's showing. It might be jittery now, but because I'm so close to the ground, but I'm definitely getting hit on VRAM and GPU, but I'm still maintaining my frame rate, so like it feels super smooth in the headset still. No problems. Yeah, again, it might be different in the mirror when I'm doing those low to the ground maneuvers, low altitude maneuvers. Oh, got a little stutter right there. Just one. It was like boom, boom, and then gone. By and large, though, performance is much, much better than it was in 2020 or in the past couple of months with 2024. And if you know, you know. There are people out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. Microsoft 2024, Flight Sim 2024 is much better VR experience than I've ever had in 2020. And I've had some pretty damn good experiences in 2020. I got good performance. It's just better in 2024. And it's getting better and better all the time. whether it be a driver update, a DLSS update, or a world update, or a sim update. Like, I'm getting better performance rather than regressing into worse performance, which has happened in the past with, you know, sim updates and drivers. But this one seems pretty good, especially for a development driver. I've never used a development driver before, but, you know, now I am. Just because I was interested to see if smooth motion would fix my mirror. And it did. I didn't really expect it to give me any kind of boost in VR, but, you know, I'm getting decent headroom, even with dynamic settings off. Like, I cannot complain. Now, hopefully they'll start releasing these 590 drivers soon to the public, stable ones. But as far as stability is concerned, I haven't had any crashes, I haven't had any weirdness, although I did freeze on Assetto Corsa a couple of times, but that's because I was experimenting with things. But just playing it is okay. Like, I can run the game, albeit with higher headroom numbers that I'm used to, or lower headroom numbers that I'm used to. But it still hits 90 frames a second most of the time, so it's not bad. But I might, you know, who knows, I might install some more or play more VR games and see how it works. But I am pretty sure it works with DLAA and not frame generation, or it doesn't work with frame generation in conjunction. You need to pick one or the other, you know what I mean? So for the 2D players out there, the flat screen flight simmers, I would suggest turning off frame generation if you are going to try it. Turn off frame generation and enable smooth motion in the driver. And you're going to need the NVIDIA Profile Inspector to enable it, because it doesn't show up in the NVIDIA control panel. So here's a weird, I don't know if this happens in the non-beta or without this driver, but you've got to mess with the lighting for the lights to turn on. There we go. See what I mean? For the panel lights to come on in the 500. But once they're on, you're fine. Alright, I'm done. For tonight, I think.